after me. I'm a man. I'm 40.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome into a brand new episode of Moving the Goalposts. I'm Nick DiMartino.
I'm Liam Barwick.
So you can follow us you can follow the Empty the Bench Network on YouTube. And you can follow us you can follow the show on social media at MTGPETB on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, and the same thing. And you can follow the Empty the Bench Podcast Network on social media at ETB Network on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. You can follow me on Twitter at Nick DMart, and you can follow Liam on Twitter at LiamMTGP. And on Instagram, you're at Liam827, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You can follow etbpodcast.com, where you could get all the Empty the Bench Network podcasts, and you can listen to Moving the Goalposts wherever you get your podcasts. And we are presented by Wolf Spreads. Okay, so make sure to like and subscribe, blah, 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 all that. All right. So there's a lot to get to today. NBA trade deadline. There's been a bunch of blockbuster moves. Then a lot of teams riddled with injuries or trying to make moves. Namely, the Sixers traded away Patrick Beverley for draft picks. I think trading away players for draft picks is very often, or at least good players for draft picks, is very often a sign of desperation. It looks like Embiid is out for like the season with a torn meniscus, I think it is.
Mm-hmm.
I only know what a meniscus is because athletes keep tearing it. It's like one of those body parts that you only know exists because of the injury. I actually like almost feel bad for the Sixers. And I think they're kind of trying to hide it. It looks like Embiid might not even be back for the playoffs, or even if he is back for the playoffs, it's going to hurt the Sixers a lot. So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
No, they first said that Embiid would come back in a month or two unless that the meniscus needed to be repaired. So today, then they said it would be longer if it needed to be repaired. So today they did say it needed to be repaired. So if you think about, he's going to miss more than 2 months. Well, 2 months from now, the playoffs will already have started. So he's gone for the season. It was, I mean, again, so they waved the white flag there. They trade Beverly. It was a good move for Milwaukee, who has been playing well and certainly hasn't been playing well this season as a whole defensively. They are not a good defensive team. And Patrick Beverly is, while he's not what he was on Houston, he's or in LA, he's still a good defender and a good piece for them. You need depth in this league, and I think that the whole Eastern Conference is trying to catch up with the Celtics right now. So that was a good move, I thought, on the Bucks' part. As for the Knicks, I thought they made a great move, bringing back Alec Burks, and more importantly, getting Bogdan Bogdanović for Quentin Grimes, Flynn, and a second rounder. It adds a lot of depth, which the Knicks needed. It gives them two guys who can play both sides of the court. They can create shots for themselves. This is a good move, and it was a good depth move. And most importantly, the Knicks this year have acquired Anunoby, Precious Achiuwa, Josh Hart last year, Burks, and Bogdanovich, all without having to give up a first-round pick. So they're still sitting on that treasure trove of first-round picks. So this is a good move for a few reasons. One, it gives them enough depth to make a playoff run. And two, it still keeps open the possibility of trading for a star next year.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think that's a very important part, which is not so much that the first round pick for a team like the Knicks itself matters that much, other than as currency.
Right.
To be able to possibly trade. And you're right. I think that depth actually is a very underrated aspect of the NBA. Teams have a lot of depth. And if your team, and the Knicks hardly, just in general, they hardly gave up anything for Bogdanovich and Alec Burks. I mean, we can live without Quentin Grimes.
I'm annoyed by Knicks fans. Kind of annoy me because they were at the start of the day. They were like making it seem like it was like a big deal if we got rid of Grimes. Like it's really not. He hasn't been that big. And also, we needed somebody now because you see, Anunoby is going to be out probably a month or so. They needed somebody like Bogdanovich to come in and be a fill-in for him. And then when he comes back, he'll be a good piece off the bench for him. And also, a lot of Knicks fans, this is going to be different than when Alec Burks was at the Knicks years ago because he was a starter back then. He's not going to be a starter. Right. He's got to come off the bench, give them good minutes, which you need quality minutes, especially because of the way that Tibbs plays his starters. You're going to need guys that can give you quality minutes.
Well, a lot of times Tibbs overplays his starters.
Right.
Which has been a very common criticism. At least if you give him a better bench, he's less likely to overdo it with his starters.
Right. Especially because the Knicks have had a lot of injuries this year, like Randall Brunson got hurt the other day. Mitchell Robinson's been out for a while. That was a bad move. That was a big move. I also thought PJ Washington going from Charlotte to Dallas was a good move. Dallas could be a team to watch. I think the West is really wide open. You've got Dallas, you've got Phoenix, Clippers, Thunder, I think are all in the conversation. Where in the East, I think you really have two teams, the Bucks and the Celtics. And I think, I don't know what you think, but I think the Knicks are entering the conversation as the third team. Certainly Philly's out now.
Well, I think the Knicks are, and I would say they're entering it in a sense, but I mean, like the Knicks are not. The Knicks record is the same as the Bucks. The problem is the Knicks have a lot of injuries, and I mean the Sixers I think would be better than all of those teams, if not for Embiid getting injured.
I agree,
and the Cavs are ahead of us right now too.
Yeah, but if you think the Knicks beat the Cavs in 5 games last year and they've improved the team since then.
But just because it happened last year doesn't mean it's going to happen again.
Also, I agree.
But it's not just that. It's not just that. I mean, I also, we're talking about the regular season. Where do they finish? And that matters too. I mean, the difference between 3 and 4 can be pretty big. I mean, the Knicks are definitely a playoff team, which
correct
is a pretty good problem to have when we're thinking about seeding. But yeah, I mean, where you're seated is, that could be a pretty big deal. It's probably not that big of a deal in the first round, but it certainly could be come the second round, home court advantage and all that. And the difference between home court could be night and day. That really could be the difference. And sometimes the team that's seated higher is worse than the team seated lower when the playoff comes around. Sometimes it's just about getting hot at the right time. I mean, when the Knicks played the Hawks a few years ago, the Knicks were seated higher than the Hawks.
Right.
But the Hawks were clearly a better team.
Yeah, but that was such a weird year, COVID year and whatever. But also Cleveland is ahead of the Knicks and the Bucks by half a game as of taping. They'll probably be up by a game by the time this comes out on Friday night. But also they've won 13 of 14 games. So they're not going to keep that pace up. So yeah. I think Cleveland will drop by the time that it's all said and done. I think
you can say the same thing about the Knicks.
Yeah, I think that the Knicks will probably finish in the 3 or the 4.
Yeah,
I don't think that they'll go ahead of Milwaukee. But
well, the thing is that like the East, it has. I feel like the East is a bit more of like I wouldn't say the haves and the have-nots, but there is certainly a bit of a drop-off post-Sixers.
Yeah, it's top heavy.
It's it's much more
Post Knicks
top-heavy.
now.
It is basically those 5 teams, and then it's
Not
down
even
to
post Sixers, post Knicks now, because the Sixers are out of the
Yeah,
conversation.
exactly. Both. I'm just saying in general. I mean, even without the Embiid injury, it was 5 teams. Now I would say it's 4 teams. Very. The East right now is very top heavy, and I never thought that the Knicks would be a part of the top
Right.
in a top heavy East.
Well, it's odd as a Knicks fan to have competence.
Yeah,
Like
it's
Leon Rose.
really, it feels sort of bizarre. I've also, and I've mentioned this before, it also makes me feel stupid. Because I remember and it wasn't just me, it was a common viewpoint amongst Knicks fans to be angry at Leon Rose and saying we should fire Tom Thibodeau. I mean, let's be honest, Tom Thibodeau is the best head coach we've seen in 20 years on the Knicks.
Right.
I can't think of anybody that's been better, including D'Antoni.
Yeah, I agree. And also let's put into also perspective, conversations and for instance, when the Nets signed Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant and the Knicks, now the Nets had a couple good years and the Knicks had a couple bad years, but the Knicks signed Julius Randle and there was a lot of making fun of the Knicks and all that stuff at the time. Well, the Nets are a disaster right now, and Julius Randle is still on the Knicks and is one of the better players. Yeah. So the narrative doesn't always shift, especially in the NBA where things change on players' moods change on a dime.
Yeah, NBA players are probably the moodiest of all athletes.
The Knicks, you have to say, are one of the few teams in the NBA that really do play insanely hard every night.
And that has a lot to do with coaching.
Correct.
And with the Knicks, for years, there's been a perspective, at least, of them not caring.
Right.
And I think there was a certain amount of truth to it. Players often not caring. And also not playing defense, which has also been an issue for the Knicks. But, I mean, the Knicks now actually have a bunch of good role players and a really good point guard. When's the last time we had a really good point guard?
Yeah.
A great point guard, I would say.
Yeah, probably not some stars.
A star point guard in my whole life. I don't think the Knicks have ever had a star point guard.
Stephon Marbury, but yeah.
That's 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And by the way, Stephon Marbury is not as good as Brunson is right now.
No, of course.
But it's just it doesn't even. I mean, I barely remember Stephon Marbury. He was playing 20 years ago. I remember he was the first Knicks jersey I ever got. It was right around the time when he came out with the Starberry sneaker brand.
Right. Yes, I used to wear
those. So that I mean, to us, that is a huge deal. I mean, we have a star point guard, which is very important in the NBA. We have, and by the way, Julius Randle is at least a borderline star also.
Yeah.
So we have star players, we have depth, we have coaching, and we can play defense. Those are 4 things that we're just not used to having. I mean, it shouldn't be that way. If we were a well-run franchise, that would just sort of, we would be used to it to an extent by now. But we have those 4 things, which we didn't have before. So, I mean, what you said, I mean, about the Nets, and I mean, the thing is, the Nets, that was one of they were a super team that failed completely, basically. That's what the Nets were.
Right.
If Kevin Durant's foot was a little smaller, they would have won an NBA Finals. They would have won that year.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So, there's a lot. Anything. Oh, did you see that video with LeBron?
Which one?
Well, apparently there was one where apparently he was teasing that he was suggesting that the Lakers were going to trade him.
Well, there was that, and then he also had that hourglass tweet where he just tweeted an hourglass out.
What does that even mean? That means
he didn't say. He never explained it. But
that suggests that time is up.
Yeah. So I don't know, but
that either means he's thinking of retiring, or the Lakers are going to trade him, or
Well, I heard Laker trade rumors, but we actually reported that story last week about the Beverly Hills mansion party, which is right next to a house he was building in LA. So that's why I always thought, well, I don't think he's going to get traded because he's building a house in LA. But obviously he didn't. And the Lakers really didn't make any moves. They're probably going to sign Spencer Dinwiddie off of waivers. But besides that, I mean, that's not a blockbuster move. Besides that, they really didn't make any moves. And so I don't know what sort of position they're in because right now they're barely in the play-in and the West is very deep.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, the West is a lot different from the East this year. Although I don't think the two conferences are nearly as lopsided as they used to be. It used to be that the West was so much better than the East, and the East was almost like a minor league. It's not like that anymore.
No.
All right, so the Super Bowl obviously is coming up. So the Niners right now are giving 1.5, and the over/under is 47.5. I'm not so sure about the over/under, but I really love the Chiefs. This game, I hate how much I love the Chiefs for a lot of reasons. Some of them football reasons, some of them non-football reasons. One of them, I mean, just to get to the just to get through the football reasons, I would say the Chiefs have looked a lot better than the Niners. The Chiefs have really played better than they were expected to. They won 2 playoff games on the road against very good defenses. Against the Bills, I mean, let's not people want to discount that win against the Bills. I mean, the Bills were one of the hottest teams in the league. Were arguably the hottest team in the league going into that game. They went to Buffalo, which is a tough place to play, and they beat them. Not many teams could have done that. I don't believe the Niners could have even done that. And they made Mahomes made 2 of the best defenses look not so great. They destroyed the Dolphins at home. I get that people are really not, largely because of that game, people are kind of writing off the Dolphins. That still is a pretty big thing that they were able to just annihilate one of the better teams in the league. And the Chiefs, it is to me just so undeniable that the Chiefs look better. They have the better quarterback, the better head coach. The other thing is, there's been virtually no downside with the Chiefs. The Niners, are we really going to forget how weak they looked? They almost lost to the Packers. The Packers snuck into the playoffs. Jordan Love is a rookie. Their defense is below average at best. The Lions also have probably a below average defense. The defenses that the Niners were playing they were playing makeshift defenses if you compare them to the Chiefs. The Chiefs have played much better defenses. And all of these things combined just make me say the Chiefs look like a better team. Another thing is that it sort of seems like the public is very high on the Niners because they want to be. I think that the public is rooting against the Chiefs because of Taylor Swift and how they sort of the Chiefs have sort of become this villainous team like every dynasty does. But they're so clearly the better team right now. Am I crazy?
Well, the only things I disagree with you on, one, I disagree that what you said about the Packers. The Packers were a really good team at the end of the year. They killed Dallas. They beat the Chiefs. They were a really good team at the end of the year. And the Lions are a really good team. The other thing I disagree with you on is that the public is high on the 49ers because the bets are 3-1 to the Chiefs.
Really?
Yeah.
Where did you see that?
It's public, who's betting what. It's just the sharp money is all on the 49ers, but the public is all on the Chiefs, 3-1. But other than that, I agree with everything else you said. To me, it comes down to two simple things are in play in this game that you don't often have in a Super Bowl. You don't often have in an NFL game, but you don't often have in a Super Bowl, which is the better defense and the points is in play, and the better quarterback and the points is also in play. So I completely agree that I took the Chiefs. I've got it at 2.5. And I'm Chiefs plus 2.5. I'll take them on the money line as well. I completely agree. You don't get the better defense in the points is rare in a Super Bowl. The last time I can really remember it happening was the Broncos and the Panthers Super Bowl, and the Broncos won easily. So forget about just covering. So yeah, I agree. And I would also take the over. I think that the 49ers defense has looked a little on the softer side in the last two games. Indoors, Mahomes is 13-1 straight up, and 11-3 against the spread. So I like the over as well. I think that they'll put up points, and San Francisco certainly has the ability to put up points as well, even with as good the Chiefs' defense has been. But if you think that the Chiefs could put up 30 something, then you would only need 20 from San Francisco.
Yeah, like I don't know if I would take the over under. I mean, I often find that when I bet a spread and an over under, like if I'm really right on the spread, I often am just way off on the over under. So I don't know if I would actually bet it. I know there's a bunch. So I do want to talk a little bit about the story with Christian McCaffrey's mom. She went on a podcast and said that, and basically trashed Christian McCaffrey and Olivia Culpo, who he's dating, for not buying her suite. But it turned out that they actually bought her a suite as a surprise.
Yeah, so she was on her podcast, and she was saying that Christian, she was the quote she used was Moneybags Christian and Moneybags Olivia Culpo, his girlfriend, weren't buying her a suite. And then it turned out, she was being an asshole about it, a spoiled brat basically. And then it turned out that Olivia Culpo had bought it as a surprise. And then basically she had to come out and say it. This is so stupid. Like I feel like the mother is just was being so entitled, especially because McCaffrey makes $16 million and it was $2.5 million for a suite. So he would give up a quarter of his salary for
$2.5 million for a suite.
Yeah, for a suite at the game is $2.5 million. So he's giving up a quarter of his salary. And also your husband was a professional NFL player. So, why did he not get, chastised as well?
Yeah.
This was such an asshole move.
I think it's an asshole move to say that publicly.
Yeah.
But also, it's in Vegas. It's an indoor stadium. It's not like you might sit out in the cold or something like that.
Right.
But how did they hide that? Like, did they tell her where did they give her like a fake seat or something? Like what?
No.
I was a little confused.
I don't know if she had. Yeah, I don't know how that worked, but or maybe she sold her ticket or whatever was going to sell her ticket.
Yeah, I mean, if I will say, if I was a parent, if I was like a family member of somebody playing in the Super Bowl who makes a lot of money, I probably would want to have a suite. Although the thing is, I did not know that they literally cost $2.5 million. That's insane. Wait, I do have one legitimate question. The Chiefs suite with Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce and all of that, how much does that suite cost?
I don't know. I think they were going for $2.5 million each.
Oh, so each suite. So I assume they probably split it because there's a bunch of people in that.
I mean, I'm sure she could swing it.
Yeah,
But yeah, that's just an outrageous price.
It's an outrageous price, but people are willing to pay it.
Obviously, I mean,
I think a lot of prices, especially at sporting events, are just often outrageous. I mean, like to sit behind home plate at Yankee Stadium is an insane amount of money, and unless you have like a crazy amount of expendable income, I don't see how it's worth it. in
Well,
a
not
lot of
even
cases,
that.
especially in baseball. You're outside. I'd rather watch the game on TV. Like,
Forget about behind home plate. Like, say that a ticket costs $40, right? Even to sit, at a Met game. How does a family of four, right? You have $40, 40, 80, 100, $160 for tickets, and then it's you have two kids that want two sodas. That's another $15. Like pretzels are like another $20. Like you're spending 200. You got to park if you're someone who drives to the game. At most games, like $50. It's like $300 just to go to a baseball game. Like,
yeah,
or
in some places, it's, by the way,
ridiculous.
a few years ago, I went to a Yankee game with my friends that I worked with. And yeah, it's 3 years ago almost. And I don't know if you've ever tried driving to the Bronx. It is like a horror movie. They basically, it's like playing a video game. They block off every little thing. Everything is blocked off. Like every street in the Bronx is like blocked off, and I have no idea where to go.
Right.
And I ended up, and it was a double header. And this was when I think they still do this, where like the double header, each inning is like 7 innings, or do they still do that?
7 innings each. Yeah, the doubleheaders are 7 innings.
Yeah, they still do that. Okay, so it was. So I was going to game 2, I think it was, of the Met Yankee game,
right?
And I ended up like, not only did I have to like park far away from the stadium, walking distance, but kind of far. I paid like $40 for the parking. The parking was more expensive than the ticket. And I ended up getting into the stadium. There were still mobs of people outside of the stadium who didn't even get in yet. I thought it because I got there late, maybe I'd be able to get in, but it was the opposite. I was waiting there forever, and I ended up not even getting into the game until like the 4th inning. I missed like half the game, just because in the Bronx they just close off everything. Going to Citi Field is a lot easier. I mean,
Right.
There's always like in the Bronx, there's always a cop there that is just like this way, like I have to go this way. Like Citi Field at least has a parking lot.
Yeah, but yeah, so it's ridiculous how much it costs to go to games now. So, and if you can't get into a Ranger game, don't even get me started about that, because it's $100 to get in to those games on StubHub or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it very often is just not worth it unless somebody's comping a ticket. Like, oh, I have an extra ticket. Do you want to go? I would do it, but I'm not going out of my way to go to sporting events. Like to me, unless it's a really, really big game and I want to experience the atmosphere, most of the time it is just not worth it. I can watch the game on TV, and I'm fine with that. Like, I also want to get into a little Patrick Mahomes' dad. Wait, hold on a second. So there's a bunch of prop bets, but first I want to talk about Patrick Mahomes' dad, Pat Mahomes, former pitcher on the Mets. He got arrested for a 3rd DWI or DUI. I don't know. So a DWI is like a step worse than a DUI. Is that it?
Yeah, because you have to be actually drunk.
So what counts as drunk?
0.08.
But 0.08 would be a DUI.
No, you could be you could be under, like, DUI. You could be under the influence of anything.
Oh, I see. DWI is specifically alcohol.
Yeah. So, but let's that's neither here nor there. What happened was he was at like some outpost in Texas, wherever the fuck they live, and he said he was at a bar watching a few games. And then he got pulled over because he was driving so slow, and he had an open Coors Light in the center console, which you could get arrested for,
even if you're not drunk.
Just on that. B, if you're gonna risk jail, you might want to pick a better beer than Coors Light. And 3, so then they pulled him over, and his license had expired in 2022. Which when you're also like, when you're somewhere like that where he probably drives to go everywhere he goes, having a driver's license expired for more than a calendar year, I don't know when in 2022 it expired, but having it expired for more than a calendar year is insanity.
I mean, yeah, crazy.
And
Like,
this is also his third one, so he's facing 2 to 10 years in prison.
like the thing is, it's like like you said before, it's like like now that like to me DUIs are like the delay of game of crimes. Like it is just the stupidest thing that you
Right.
can be doing. It is like you can get an Uber or a Lyft or whatever all sorts of like services, especially when you're Pat Mahomes, who has, I'm sure, a lot of money.
Right.
And I mean, I don't understand like the need to. I don't know. Do you know what his BAC was?
I don't, but the issue with also an issue with a DUI or a DWI is it's not like, it's not like another crime where like you commit a crime or whatever, and then you could have some defense or some gray area where like there's no like defense or gray area. Once it's proved that you were under the influence, and there's probably body camera footage showing like the open container of beer, like there's no defense or anything.
And him driving just probably erratically.
Well, he was driving slow. They said.
Right.
He was
So, but what I'm saying, but inebriated drivers probably. I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but I can imagine disproportionately drive slow.
Yeah, I mean, and driving slow is almost as bad as driving fast, because then cars try and get around you and they get into another lane.
When people drive slow on the highway, I mean, if you see people go like 50 miles an hour in the left lane, everybody's trying to go around you. It is absolutely dangerous. I mean, I don't know if he was driving on a highway or not, but if you look at his mugshot, did you see how drunk he looks?
Yeah.
Like you can just tell from that picture alone.
Yeah, and like you said, like there's no excuses now. It's so easy to get Uber, Lyft, anything, especially like when you're Patrick Mahomes' father. There's no excuse for anyone to commit a DUI now. It's so dangerous for yourself and for other people, and it's there's no excuses anymore. So this is I don't really have a lot of sympathy for him at all.
Right. And also like just drive, like having an open, like literally drinking while driving.
You've already been you literally. And you've already been arrested twice for it.
Yeah, like you'd think that he would at least learn at some point. But also, it's not just that. This also happened at like the worst possible time. This is the worst possible time he could have gotten it. Like if you did that in any other time of the year, like if you did this in the middle of July, it wouldn't matter that much. It's that it's in the run up. It's like coming. It's that he did it within like a week of the Super Bowl.
No, also
the Super Bowl.
What about the last Super Bowl the last Super Bowl they lost? Andy Reid's son killed somebody.
Yeah, Britt Reid.
Yeah,
Britt Reid killed.
So they've got a history of fuck you up. So I guess if you believe that, like if something bad happens that before the game, then the Chiefs are going to lose. Then maybe you should take the 49ers.
Yeah, but I think in this case it's bigger because I think Pat Mahomes is a bigger part of the Chiefs than Britt Reid was. Like Pat Mahomes is like constantly in the box, and there's always videos of him on social media and all that. Britt Reid, nobody would even recognize.
He was a coach on the team, though. But
but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but it could fuck up the mental state of the coach. The other thing I want to say, even like obviously, I have no sympathy for anyone who drives drunk or whatever. But when they do the field sobriety test, one of the things they ask you to do is recite the alphabet backwards. Who could do that sober?
Yeah, I don't know anybody.
I can't do the alphabet without singing the song in my head frontwards. Who could do it backwards?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's true. I didn't know that. I've never actually been pulled. I've never been asked to do a field sobriety test.
No, but I've heard that one used. I don't know if they still use that one, but they definitely used it a while ago.
That's pretty crazy. Wait, Mahomes Sr. agreed to perform standardized field sobriety tests and displayed 4 clues of intoxication during the horizontal gaze. How do you say that? Nystagmus eye test? 5 clues during the walk and turn test and 2 clues during the one-leg stand, according to police.
Yeah.
That's pretty crazy. I mean, thank God he didn't hurt anybody.
Yeah.
Like if God forbid he ended up killing somebody, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't imagine. Britt Reed did.
Yeah, he'd be doing real hard time.
Yeah, and he could still get prison time, although something
Well,
tells
he's going
me.
to get prison time. He's 2 to 10 years is the minimum.
Yeah,
There's a minimum of 2 years on the third one, but he could do 10. Probably won't do
don't
10.
you think he could maybe take a plea bargain?
The minimum though is 2 years for the sentence.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
This is his third one.
Yeah, so
He can take a plea bargain, but he still has a minimum.
that's nuts. I mean, I guess it's the only way he's gonna learn. Yeah. So basically, what I'm saying is, don't be like Pat Mahomes.
Mhm.
We also have this. So I do want to talk a little bit about this Las Vegas mayor who talked about the stadium location for the A's. I don't know exactly what exactly did she say. She just said that it makes no sense, right?
Yeah, so the plan right now is to put it where the Tropicana is, which is on the Strip. The only thing that I don't understand how she has jurisdiction over, and I guess I'll figure it out. I guess maybe a producer knows more, but technically, any hotel on the Strip is not in Las Vegas; it's in Paradise.
Yes, that's true. Actually,
so I don't know why she has. I don't know if she has jurisdiction over it, but so they apparently Vegas gave the A's a proposal when they first went to move there in Old Town Las Vegas, which if you've been to Vegas recently, Old Town Las Vegas has been really done up, and they've put like the Cirque, which has the biggest sports book in the world, that they put in Old Town Las Vegas. Anyway, they had a plan there for the stadium, and the A's said no to it, and they want to put a smaller one at Tropicana, and the mayor said that it doesn't make any sense, and she said that they should try and stay in Oakland instead. She's 100% right that it doesn't make any sense, and it's a big, they've put a lot of stuff there. They've put the Sphere, they put Fontainebleau, which is a big hotel resort there. It doesn't make any sense because you already have people there complaining about how bad the traffic is in the area, things like that. To put the stadium there doesn't make any sense. And this was a stupid idea to begin with. They should have never moved the team like this. The guy should have just sold the team or built a new stadium. I don't like owners that, not to sound like Bill Simmons, but I don't like owners that just whine and say, "Oh, we're going to leave," and then just get public funding for a stadium.
They would have gotten public funding either way.
From Oakland, they didn't get public funding. Right, I'm saying though, but I think that I agree that they should stay in Oakland. I think most people think they should stay in Oakland. I don't watch baseball a lot, but from what I've seen, a lot of people want them to stay in Oakland. And I've seen people in Vegas say that they like the Golden Knights much better than the Raiders, because the Golden Knights were organically grown in Las Vegas, and the Raiders were plunked in there. And the Raiders also if you ever watch a Raider game, there's not a lot of there's not a lot of main Raider fans there.
Yeah, so the A's owner had a structure in place to build a stadium by the water, but it was rejected by a local government. By the water in Oakland?
Yeah, in Oakland. Okay.
I am on the Bill Simmons train. I would say I think billionaires should pay for their own fucking stadiums. I am firmly in that camp.
Well, what about the deal? George Steinbrenner said he was going to move the team to New Jersey, which he would have never done, by the way. They would have never done that. But now they don't fucking pay tax, the Yankees. That's ridiculous as well.
Yeah, I mean,
why should I have to pay tax on my salary and they make billions more, not have to pay tax?
Right. So I'm very much in the camp of they should pay for their own stadiums. But I mean, that's going to be the case no matter what. There's going to be public funding no matter where they go. That's not
the argument of the owners or whatever is that, well, it brings a lot of revenue to the area. But if you've ever been to this stadium in Oakland, which I have, there's nothing around it. So I could see if you built a district around it, but in that area there was nothing around it. Maybe the waterfront proposal had it, but it's not I agree they should pay for it. And I don't understand. It seems like the baseball fans a lot of Major League Baseball players I've seen, and now the Vegas mayor, even Las Vegas, are against them moving there.
Well, I mean, but like you said, it's technically not in the city of Las Vegas, and the mayor doesn't have a say.
But it doesn't mean that. But I'm not saying that she has a say. But I'm just saying that the person that owns the A's seems to be on a hill alone.
But no, well, the thing is, no, because I think a lot of teams from Oakland, I mean, don't forget the Raiders also just moved from Oakland to Las Vegas. I think that Oakland is just not the best city to have a sports team. Like, that's just what it seems like.
No, it is the stadium, though. But Vegas isn't the best either. They don't fill the stadium the same. They don't have organic fans, which I just said.
You're right. They don't. But I mean, that may very well be true.
So why don't they just build? They should just make a team in Oakland, in Vegas, instead of moving a team. They should keep the A's there and move and make an expansion team. Nobody's saying they shouldn't have a team in Vegas.
I have no issue with expansion teams. Although you would have to add at least one more.
They should go to Nashville as well. But
or Charlotte or whatever, because a lot of these cities that were previously the middle of nowhere are now a lot more industrialized and a lot more populated. So I don't really care where any team is. I don't really care if there's a team in Oakland or not. I can understand, though, why I feel about the Oakland A's the same way I feel about the Pac-12. I feel bad for A's fans who want there to be a team in Oakland. But it's also undoubtedly true that for whatever reason, I don't know if it was the location or the team just not being good or whatever the case may be. The point was the way it was working at the time just wasn't working. It was not profitable, and they had to make some type of change. Whether it was move cities, build a new stadium, I don't know what it was. I'm not familiar with California, but it's very obvious to me they had to make some type of change. And the thing is that whenever you have like the lowest, I mean, the A's had by far the lowest attendance of all the teams.
But there's a bunch of reasons for that. And one of the reasons,
obviously, I'm just saying I can understand why that leads owners to say, okay, we're moving cities.
But one of the reasons was that the owner doesn't spend any money. So when they moved to Vegas, I saw people say, well, why would they want the team in Vegas? Because they already have a AAA team in Vegas. This would be a AAA team in Vegas because if he doesn't spend money, he's not going to spend money. The last time that Major League Baseball did this, Montreal moved to Tampa, and I don't think that anybody can say that was that great of a move because they can't fill
Montreal moved to Washington, D.C.
Who the hell went to Tampa?
No, but the Devil Rays were always in Tampa.
Okay, let's talk about Tampa then. Tampa doesn't spend any money, and they can't fill a ballpark in the playoffs.
Okay, Tampa was an expansion team.
Yeah. But they can't fill a ballpark in the playoffs. So when a team doesn't spend money, because they were horrible for all those years. So I don't understand why this is going to be that big of a difference. First of all, it's a dying sport already on its own.
That's not true.
Oh,
baseball is not a dying sport.
Well, baseball's fallen way behind. It's
behind. Baseball has no. Baseball is not a dying sport. Baseball is a growing sport, just like every other sport is growing. They've grown at a slower pace than, say, football and basketball. But that doesn't make it a dying sport. It still is popular in many local markets. I mean, baseball is probably the most popular sport in the New York market, arguably. Baseball or football, I would say. No. Baseball's not. I think people overstate their case when they say baseball's a dying sport. I think baseball has just not grown the same way football has. Like, I think those two things are different.
Baseball has a gigantic issue with a team like the Athletics in that it's stupidly doesn't have a salary cap. So baseball is going. How can the Pittsburgh Pirates, Oakland A's, pick another one. The Rays are okay because they do the analytic stuff. But how could teams like that, Cincinnati Reds, they'll never be able to compete ever because they don't have any money. And same thing, the Montreal Expos had no attendance, but anytime they got good players, another team would just buy them. So baseball is a problem because you're going to have the Yankees, Astros, Dodgers, Red Sox are always going to be at the top, and the rest of them will always be at the bottom. and that's why the sport's not that good.
I don't think it has anything to do with that. I think it's just that it's slow paced. It's naturally less entertaining than football and basketball. It's less popular for young. I mean, I guess that could hurt.
There's no parity in baseball. Do you agree? There's no parity.
Yeah, but the same thing is true of you could say the same thing about the NBA. People say that about the NBA. Come on, people say the same thing about the NBA.
But the Warriors have gone down right now.
Yes.
Okay, the Dodgers will never go down because the Dodgers just buy everybody. The Yankees will never go down. As much as their fans think whatever, the Yankees have been an amazing team for the last 30 years. They haven't had a losing record in 30 years. That's unbelievable.
That is true. Although in baseball, there are times when teams that were previously awful in just a couple of years rebound to be playoff teams, namely the Orioles and the Diamondbacks this year.
Watch what happens to the Orioles in a year. When their guys are off contract, they'll lose all of them.
Maybe they will. All I'm saying is that, like, I don't disagree with what you're saying about the parity of baseball. I'm just saying people often say the same thing about basketball. In fact, people say the same thing about almost every sport. People often say that, like, they hate super teams or they hate favorites and love underdogs and all that. But I think the truth is people often like favorites. Or at least attract. Not. I don't mean by root for them. I mean, like, want to watch the best teams often. I mean, for years people have said that about college football. I mean, I don't follow hockey enough to really know, but I think that's just a pretty common criticism of sport.
I think hockey has the most.
Like, I don't think that's unique to baseball.
Well, but it's stupid that they don't have a salary cap. It's ridiculous.
No. Yeah, I kind of get that point a little bit. Yeah, I mean, look, baseball's in a sort of funny position, but baseball is very local. It's popular locally often. And by the way, what you're saying about Tampa, some cities just aren't great sports cities and are never going to be. I mean, I don't know what percentage of Tampa are just New Yorkers that moved down, but a lot of them are, and they're not Rays fans.
Well, the stadium's in a horrible place too, but
it's in a bad area. But so is
in a bad area.
So is Yankees.
No. It's not. It's in a bad area accessibility wise.
Oh, I see. Not
it's
as in
St. Petersburg, which is not in Tampa Bay, and then it's far out there. And the hockey arena is there, but the hockey arena only has to fill 15,000.
Right.
They have to fill 40,000. So.
Right. I mean, it is sort of a miracle to me that Florida even has hockey teams.
Yeah.
Or any city south of the Mason-Dixon line. Like, that has always been pretty amazing to me that even exists.
Sir.
Yeah. So, all right. So I do want, speaking of people getting drunk, we do have this video of a drunk guy who is not Pat Mahomes climbing up the Vegas sphere. We have that video, right?
Doesn't know how to get down.
So he climbed all the way up and got stuck there.
Well, yeah. Well, it happened yesterday, but so he climbs up. There was videos of him, like, from above while he was climbing up. But then if you think about it, the way it's a circle, like, yeah, you can get up there because you can sort of push yourself up. But now what are you going to do when you're at the top of it? Because the only way you could really, obviously, the police came and arrested him, but the only way he could have got down was to slide down it. So this was a very funny video. I like these, like, guys who do stuff like this, like the Daredevil stuff. Like, I don't know if you remember, but when they first built the World Trade Center, not the old one, the new one, there's a guy, like, parachuted off it. It reminds me of that, like, just morons doing.
But at least he had a parachute. That's way less moron.
Yeah, this guy is
on a sphere, not knowing how to get down.
Listen, it's Super Bowl week over there. The drinks have been flowing, definitely, and it's fun. Like, I like this video. The Sphere, by the way, have you seen the videos from, like, the concerts there? They're insane. Like, I have to go to the Sphere. Like, that's definitely on the bucket list, even though it is a James Dolan owned property. Do you think people who get banned from the Garden, would they not be allowed in the Sphere as well?
Oh, because it's owned by the same person?
Yes, probably not. I mean, he probably has the
Not
same
necessarily.
paper.
Unless like if you're banned from the Garden, you're banned from the Garden. I don't know of anybody banned from anything owned by James Dolan.
Yeah, well, Radio
Although it
City.
sounds like something he would do, I don't think that's how it works.
I think it was because I think they were banned from Radio City. Yeah, because remember the lawyer didn't get into that Radio City performance. So he got kicked out when her kids were in there. So probably you wouldn't get into the Sphere. But
Wait,
I
so
love
apparently the guy who climbed the Las Vegas Sphere was an activist and was trying to raise money for a homeless pregnant woman.
what?
I don't know if
he didn't have any
on the New York
signs or
Post.
anything.
I don't know if that's true or not.
I don't know if that one was true, but it was. Well, remember the woman climbed up the Statue of Liberty a few years ago on 4th of July?
Yeah.
You remember that?
I mean, basically what I'm saying is don't climb monuments. that's basically what we're saying. Try to avoid it if you can.
Try and avoid it. But I do like the Sphere. The Sphere is sick. If you see like any of the videos of it, the outside looks really cool when they put stuff on it. And then the inside, just when there was concerts, I mean, it was a U2 concert, so I wouldn't go there, but the concerts just look insane. Like it's just like a inside. And then if they put something up like on the screen or something, it just surrounds the whole area. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Vegas is a pretty crazy place. It's like a city with all these casinos and strip clubs in the middle of a desert, basically.
Yeah. I mean, and now there's so much they've put so much more there. Like Adele has a residency, like all these nice restaurants. Like Vegas is really like on the up and up now. It's crazy how nice it's become. And now they've got all the sports teams and the Super Bowl. You would never think like 10 years ago that the Super Bowl would be in Vegas because gambling was so taboo, even 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was so taboo that, I mean, that might have been the biggest reason teams didn't want to have professional teams weren't there because of the gambling aspect of it. Now it's like so different. It's like it's talked about openly.
Yeah, it's promoted. They're partnering with the leagues. Like it's very like it's very odd. Like that only a few years ago you would never even dream of it in Vegas.
Yeah,
and you'll probably get a lot of the events in Vegas.
Yeah. Wait. So I do want to get into. Do you have any Super Bowl prop bets that you have?
Yeah, I do. I have a couple. So I'll tell you my favorite bet is my favorite bet every year is it's normally the same odds every year is the game to go to overtime, which you can get at plus 900 every year. And the reason I like that bet is if it hits, you basically cover any losses that you take during the game because you hit a plus 900 bet. I got very close 2 years ago. Cincinnati was down 3 and had the ball at the 50-yard line, if you remember, before they didn't get it on 4th down. I was very close because I actually had Cincinnati in the game. And so it wouldn't have mattered to me if they had lost because I could cover my losses. The other one I liked was at plus 110. I like this one as well, which is at plus 120 on Caesars. Pacheco to score before Christian McCaffrey. I really like that bet. Getting plus odds on that. And the other one I really liked was plus 150 for the longest reception to be longer than the longest field goal kicked. So in other words, I
actually like that one too.
5-yard field goal, then you need a 56-yard reception or up. I really do like those ones. Color of the Gatorade. I think that you're crazy if you don't go with red for the color of the Gatorade. Both teams wear red. I feel like
were the odds equal for the color of the Gatorade?
I haven't seen that one on Caesars yet, but I think they put that one up late. And I think you are right that they are. I'm having a very hard time finding the national anthem odds.
Yeah, I don't think they do it anymore.
Yeah, well, remember that one narc thought he was being like helpful when he timed the practice. Do you remember that a couple of years ago?
Yeah, I think that might be why.
Down because he figured it out. It's like he's so stupid, that guy. Like you should just put all your money on it. And
You're right. I don't know why you would do that.
Yeah, red is at plus
that would be a
550.
really easy thing to do.
Red is at plus 550. I don't know how you don't take red. Both teams are red. I mean,
So, want to hear something funny? On FanDuel, orange is plus 300, blue is plus 370, yellow, lime, or green is plus 390, purple is plus 390, red is plus 550,
that's what I'm saying.
water or clear is plus 750.
And I also, I don't know. So I like that one, and I also like more field goals kicked. So it's will there be more sacks or field goals? And I would take field goals at plus 145. I think
I think
both
so, too.
quarterbacks aren't like Mahomes. I know that the better defensive line, obviously they have Chris Jones on Kansas City, but the better defensive line is San Francisco, and Mahomes doesn't really get sacked.
Yeah, he avoids sacks.
To move around. So I like the field goals on that one. And then also there's a pick 'em between what will be more, the length of the longest field goal or the total points scored. And I think you would probably like length of longest field goal on that if you're not even going to take the over. Because the longest field goal indoors could be like 56.
Right, but is it? I don't know. That's a tough one.
But those are ones I like. And then I'm an avid tails never fails guy.
Really?
Yeah.
Tails, interesting. I think. All right, maybe. I don't know.
We
I'll
did
think
in
about
Atlantic
it.
City. Do you remember?
Is there a Taylor Swift prop bet? Number of times they show her, or there's got to be.
Let me find it. But do you remember we did that in Atlantic City on the Kansas City Tampa game? We had the coin toss.
How long? Oh,
We
for the
lost.
Super Bowl 3 years ago.
Yeah,
Yes,
and we
I remember.
lost. I'm not seeing any on Caesars. Maybe Nick can find one, but there has to be a lot of Taylor Swift one. This is another odd one, which I think is really stupid. Is who do you think the most bet player to win MVP is?
Mahomes.
No,
Who?
Kelsey. Most bet on, but it's a stupid bet because it's almost impossible for Kelsey to win MVP because every time that Kelsey scores a touchdown, it would have to be thrown by Mahomes. But not every
Yeah,
time
I mean-
Mahomes scores a touchdown, it has to be to Kelsey. So mathematically, how do you have Kelsey?
Well, I guess yeah, it's very unlikely Kelsey would win.
The only way he could do it is like if he got 2-yard checkdowns and then ran him 80 yards each time. But every time that he makes a play, it's going to be thrown by Mahomes. So
Yeah,
you would think Mahomes, just like I think
the
that
only way that would happen would be if Mahomes has like a bad game.
it's the same way when like a quarterback is up for the Heisman and his receiver is also up for the Heisman. It's like, well, how can the receiver win? Oh yeah, that was
Right.
the one that they looked at was Travis Kelsey proposed, which I think was 20 to 1 or 16 to 1.
I don't see how
But-
you can bet on that.
Well, here's the question that I have. So the initial bet was if the Chiefs win, will he propose? And so my question is, if the Chiefs lose, do you get the money back for that bet? Or are you also betting them to win? Because it's if they win.
I think
will
you're
they
also.
propose?
I think
If
it's
they
like.
lose-
I think it's probably like a parlay.
right, because they
Wouldn't
need
it
to
be?
win. Yeah.
I don't know. That's
Well,
a
it's
good question.
if they win. But yeah, and then also 6 to 1 will Taylor Swift mentioned by the MVP in their speech.
No,
Um,
no, there's no
I
way.
don't know.
I highly
Well-
doubt
well,
he'll mention. They
Travis
might
Kelce,
hand
if
to Taylor
Travis Kelce-
Swift, but I don't think he'll mention Taylor Swift.
If Travis Kelsey wins the MVP, he should not mention it because she didn't mention him when she won her Grammy the other day.
True,
So he could throw it right back at her.
but like I don't think it's so much throw it right back at her. It's like there's already so much attention on the relationship. Why would he want to just like just make it an even bigger story than it already is?
Right. And then also plus 130, will they kiss? And I don't understand that bet. I don't understand, which is will Taylor Swift and Travis Kelsey appear in a commercial? I don't get how you could bet that because won't somebody already know that?
Yeah, because the commercials are all set up already.
Right.
And the answer is,
Um,
I would say probably not.
I would say probably.
I would say
I
no,
don't know.
probably not. But
I don't know.
I don't know. Some of these bets are just weird.
Yeah,
So
I love the Super Bowl prop bets.
yeah, but I mean,
Those are my favorites.
but like Taylor Swift, I think is just going to be a huge part of the storyline.
Of course, she's going to be a gigantic part. But I think that at first I thought that she was getting. I thought that her fans are a little ridiculous, over the top. But I think
They
it's
are.
now gone the opposite way, where I think that the people that get annoyed about her coverage are over the top now. It's really not.
Yeah.
Like we said, she was on camera for 45 seconds the last game. It's not.
Well,
that
hold
much
on.
of a-
I will say for a second that doesn't make the point you think it does. 45 seconds to be showing Taylor Swift on a football game is a really long time. Who else gets even
Not in a
close to that?
row, the whole game.
I know, but what
Not in
I'm
a
saying
row.
is that no, I don't disagree with your premise. I'm just saying I don't think that particular point proves anything. But there's a few things. I think that hating on Taylor Swift or whoever the most famous celebrity is at the time is always a fashionable thing to do. Often, because Taylor Swift gets criticized usually because of her fans or for otherwise very silly reasons. I mean, I'm not going to criticize Taylor Swift because her fans are crazy. I mean, it's not her fault if a lot of crazy people like her music. Like, I don't know. Every artist has a bunch of crazy fans. Like Kanye has a bunch of crazy fans too. Like every great artist has a bunch of crazy fans. I don't see why it really matters. Nor do I think she's really culturally a negative influence in any way. She's not like a criminal or anything like that. She's the worst thing. I mean, she writes songs about breakups. Like, who cares? Like, she doesn't really promote any sort of like toxicity to the culture or anything like that.
Right,
but also, I think that also like, so no matter what, I mean, people are going to hate Taylor Swift like I said, often for silly reasons. But I also think that like there is this. I think that people which is 99.9% of the population, don't understand Swifties or some super fan of of a musical artist because it seems so bizarre to most people, which is why I think that people have that reaction because it just feels like an overload of somebody who has nothing to do with the game. I think is the mentality.
But it's not though because how much it's not new either. How much coverage did Donna Kelsey get last Super Bowl? A lot, right? How much coverage did Sister Jean get when Loyola Chicago made a tournament run? The latch onto a story and show a person a lot is not something that's new or unique in sports at all. It happens all the time.
No, I completely agree with you. I think the reason is because it's a lot easier to hate on Taylor Swift. Like, who's going to hate on a 100-year-old nun?
Right. But, yeah. Which is I agree. Like, I think that Taylor Swift, like you said, is like a polarizing figure for no reason. Like she's not problematic. Yeah. She doesn't have issues like that. Like, again, like I think also it might also be a case. I don't know what you think, but of the squeaky wheel being the loudest. Like, I don't know if like that many people off of social media are that upset. And it's just like a lot of people on social media are kind of like inundating, changing the narrative a lot.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like social media. A lot of it is just sort of social media outrage culture.
I mean, if everybody hated her, they wouldn't. If everyone hated her, they wouldn't be covering as much because they only cover her because it brings a lot of eyeballs to the TV
and a lot of Swift. I mean, and honestly, that's true of every Super Bowl in general. How many people watch for the commercials and the halftime show? Like the Super Bowl every year is just a bunch of people who are not football fans tuning in for that one game a year. Like that's basically what the Super Bowl is. It's sort of a pop culture event. And who does the halftime show is always like this huge deal. Like that's just what the Super Bowl often is. And I think that just in general with Donna Kelsey and Sister Jean, like I said, it would just be so ridiculous to hate on them because, I mean, Donna Kelsey is the mother of 2 players in the Super Bowl and Taylor Swift is a pop star. You would have to be a special kind of psychopath to like hate on the mother of 2 football players, like an older woman. That would just that would just seem so ridiculous to most people.
this same thing also neither person was as big in their field, but also about 16 years ago, something like that. The same exact thing happened when Tony Romo was dating Jessica Simpson, and people were freaking out that she was on TV. They showed her all the time. And then when he lost the game to the Giants in the playoffs, they were like, "Oh, he was out with he went somewhere with Jessica Simpson the bye week that they had." So this has happened before. But that's also to say that when they were showing Jessica Simpson and stuff, this is not new just to Taylor Swift. This is not like, oh, they never show fans, and now we're showing Taylor Swift like crazy. It's just it happens.
Right. No, but I think that Swifties became interested in the NFL because of Taylor Swift, which is just undoubtedly true.
But I didn't say they weren't, but I'm saying that but that's advantageous to the NFL.
Of course, that's what I'm saying. I think that's why
they outraged about it or not be.
Right.
I don't understand the outrage.
I don't believe
about it
anybody cares enough about them showing Taylor Swift to actually like not watch the game. Like people often say, "Who cares?" If that were true, they wouldn't show her. People care a lot. I mean, like it's just a reality of life. Like what celebrities do kind of matters. I mean, like there's a reason they show a bunch of like C-list celebrities at Knicks games. A lot of them are not even recognizable in public. Right. I mean, like they would show like people who are not even close to as famous as Taylor Swift at Knicks games. Like I think that leagues just tend to want famous people to be at their games. That just I think is just undeniable. And I don't know, like I don't really care that they show Taylor Swift at these games. Like whatever.
Right.
Like I agree. It is like a bit of an overload at times. Like yeah, I don't disagree, but I also don't care that much in general.
Do you know I think it was 1980, the Bengals played the 49ers in the Super Bowl, and the Bengals, that was when Boomer Esiason was the quarterback of the Bengals, and the Bengals were like up 4, I want to say, and it was like a minute or so left, and the TV panned to John Candy in the stands, and then after that, the 49ers went on a drive to win the game, and a lot of Bengals fans were like calling it the John Candy game because they showed him, and then everything went to shit for the Bengals.
Reminds me of the time that I was playing craps in Atlantic City. I turned around and I saw you, and then I rolled a 7.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean,
so speaking of Boomer Esiason, there's just one more story I want to get to. Al Dukes booked the wrong Randy Moss. There's a broadcaster who's apparently a big horse racing guy who's also named Randy Moss.
Yes, you didn't know him?
No.
Yeah,
Al Dukes didn't either, apparently.
He's a huge horse racing guy. I mean, I'm much more of a horse racing person. You don't like horse racing at all, but
no.
Yeah, he's like the top guy on TVG or whatever you're watching to watch horse races. But he's one of the top guys, and his name is Randy Moss TV. And so Al Dukes booked him thinking that he was Randy Moss, the receiver. Now, this Randy Moss also did work for NFL Network for a little bit in the defense of Al Dukes. Like maybe he was looking at the resume or something. But
right, he saw NFL Network and thought it was the Randy Moss.
But it was a very funny moment on TV because most people do know him in the sports world. He's on Pardon My Take, before the Derby and stuff always. But he was like, Gio was like, Al Dukes was like, oh, I didn't know that Randy Moss really liked horse racing this much. And then Gio was like, wait, Randy Moss, the receiver or the horse racing guy? And then Boomer Esiason was like, oh my God, we booked
the wrong Randy Moss. But I also think that like the Randy Moss, the broadcaster guy, probably wants people to think he's the receiver.
Well, yeah, he's like, well, I think he has like I think he has like the what you call it, the same @ on Twitter.
I don't think two people can have the same @.
Like, no, yeah, he has the @ I'm saying. Like the Randy Moss @.
No, his is @Randy Moss @Randy_Moss_TV.
Right. So it's not like it was like that discernible. you know, that's one of these funny moments. I know Ryan Russillo did that one time. He booked the guest with the wrong name on one of his podcasts. I forget which guest it was now, but he booked the wrong guest. Yeah, very funny moment. It's Al Dukes' fault because he should have done his due diligence. In Al Dukes' defense, he's been falling asleep at 6:30 and waking up at 12:30 in Vegas, as he said, which is crazy. It's crazy that they have to do the show at 3:00 in the morning out there too.
4:00 in the morning.
3.
Oh, do they not do daylight savings?
No, only Arizona doesn't do it. Vegas does do it. Vegas is 3 behind. Yeah, I mean, this was a very fine moment, and Randy Moss
right,
is
3. I was thinking it starts at 7.
Randy Moss is famous, like in the sports world. Like, so it's even funnier because like it's not like he was like, well, I'd never heard of this guy. Like Gio knew him and Boomer knew him immediately.
Yeah.
Like most people have heard of him.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Ryan Russillo booked Brandon Marshall, the receiver, on his show.
Oh, but it turned out to be the line.
And I remember he was like, he was saying it on one of these shows. He was just sitting there. It was one of the Zoom interviews, and he was just like, "Hey, like, how you been doing?" And like the guy was just like answering. Brandon Marshall was just like answering questions.
Yeah.
That was on ESPN radio, but it was over like a Zoom or whatever it was. The very funny moments, which by the way, that was one of the best ESPN radio shows, SVP and Russillo.
Yeah.
Those were the golden days of ESPN when they had the Herd and then SVP and Russillo.
So much of ESPN's personality is left.
Yeah.
But the Herd, I one time I listened to the first episode of the Herd, or like the opening segment of the Herd on ESPN radio from I think it might have been 2007 or something like that. They just plucked Colin Cowherd out of nowhere. He was doing local radio in like the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, I think he's one of the best guys on.
He is, because he's interesting.
Yeah,
I mean, his analogies are often kind of outlandish, but they all make sense.
They're really good, though.
They're really good analogies.
They
make
all
sense. It's just a weird sort of connection to make.
He's the best national radio, because I'm not a huge if I'm listening, I'll normally listen to local radio, which I think in New York and Boston and Chicago and stuff is normally better than national radio. But I would listen to Cowherd. And this is very funny.
He's also he's kind of a Swiftie himself.
He is a fan, unless so maybe she should show up to the Super Bowl in the backwards hat, and then we'll see how much he is.
All right, so that's it for us. We'll be back next week. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. This is Moving the Goalposts.